So you want to reframe your thoughts. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a mode of therapy that focuses on identifying unhelpful thoughts and reframing them in order to aid in a healthy outlook on reality. We are all on equal footing here. Everyone has distorted thinking sometimes. Start with identifying the kind of distorted thinking you are experiencing, then ask what a more helpful interpretation might be. You might have a pattern where you tend towards a certain distortion more than others, so that's another thing to be aware of. This video should not be used in the place of therapy. Here are a list of cognitive distortions. Black and white thinking. In polarized thinking, things are either black or white. All or nothing. You have to be perfect or you're a complete and abject failure. There is no middle ground. You are placing people or situations in either or categories, with no shades of gray, not allowing for the complexity of most people and situations. You're viewing the world in extremes. Ask yourself how you know that the extremes are the only possibilities. Filtering. You're magnifying the negative details while filtering out all the positive aspects of a situation. For instance, maybe you are focusing on a single unpleasant detail and dwelling on it exclusively, so that your vision of reality becomes distorted. If you apply a cognitive filter, you only see the negative and ignore anything positive. So ask yourself, is there really no upside to the situation that is bothering me? Overgeneralization. In this cognitive distortion, you come to a general conclusion based on a single incident or a single piece of evidence. If something bad happens just once, you expect it to happen over and over again. You may see a single unpleasant event as part of a never-ending pattern of defeat. Is there really no end to the cycle that you're experiencing? Is there a way to break the pattern? Jumping to conclusions. You know what another person is feeling and thinking, and exactly why they act the way they do. In particular, you feel you are able to determine how others feel towards you as though you can read their minds. Jumping to conclusions can also manifest as fortune-telling, where you believe your entire future is preordained, whether it be in school, work, or romantic relationships. For example, you may conclude that someone is holding a grudge against you without asking the person how they feel about you, or predict how all your interactions with this person will go in the future. Could you have a dialogue where you could find out if the conclusions you have come to are true? Catastrophizing. This has been a personal favorite of mine. You expect disaster to strike no matter what. In this distortion, you hear about a problem and use what-if questions. What if tragedy strikes? What if it happens to me? You imagine the worst case scenario. You might exaggerate the importance of significant events like a simple mistake. So ask yourself, are things really as bad as they seem? Will they really escalate into inescapable tragedy? Personalization. Personalization is a distortion where everything you do or say is some kind of direct personal reaction to yourself, taking everything personally, even when something is not directed towards you. When you experience this kind of thinking, you will probably also compare yourself to others, trying to determine who is smarter, better looking, etc. If you're engaging in personalization, you may also see yourself as the cause of some unhealthy external event that you're not actually responsible for. If I had only done X, then Y would not have happened. Does this really have to do with you, or are you assuming that you have more power than you do? Control fallacies. This distortion involves two different but related beliefs about being in complete control of every situation in your life, either magnifying external control or magnifying internal control. If you feel externally controlled, you see yourself as helpless and a victim of fate. And falsely assuming too much internal control makes you feel responsible for the pain and happiness of everyone around you. Ask yourself, what is really within your control? The fallacy of fairness. In the fallacy of fairness, you feel resentful because you think you know what is fair. But your idea of fairness is not the general consensus. If you go through life applying a measuring ruler against every situation, judging its fairness will often make you feel resentful. You might even feel hopeless because of this. Because life isn't fair. Things will not always work out in our favor, even when they should. It is okay to say, this isn't fair, and also move on from it. Where do your ideas about fairness come from? Are they true? Should statements. a list of ironclad rules about how every person should behave. People who break the rules make you, who are following these should statements, angry. You also feel guilty when you violate your own rules. These should statements can feel motivating, but they also lead to shame cycles. Where does should come from? Emotional reasoning. The distortion of emotional reasoning can be summed up by the statement, if I feel this way, then it must be true. Whatever you are feeling is believed to be true automatically and unconditionally. If you feel stupid and boring, then you must be stupid and boring. Strong emotions can override our rational thoughts and reasoning. Emotional reasoning is when your emotions take over what you're thinking entirely, blotting out all the rationality and logic. The person who engages in emotional reasoning assumes that their unhealthy emotions reflect the way things really are. I feel it, therefore it must be true. Could things look differently when you aren't feeling so low? Heaven's reward fallacy. The belief that your sacrifice and self-denial will eventually pay off, as if some global force is keeping score. This is similar to the fallacy of fairness, because in a fair world, people who work the hardest will get the largest reward. A person who sacrifices and works hard but doesn't experience the expected payoff will usually feel bitter when the reward does not come. Where did your expectations for a certain result come from? Be gentle with yourself and remember that this is all normal. Feel better.